Welcome to another episode of Thez Nutz Garage, and today we're back out here working on the 1978 F350. And what we're going to be doing today is I'm still prepping my frame for my POR15. And what I have to do today is I have to cut out some more of parts of the frame so that way I can get into some of these tighter spots. And I have come to the determination that what I'm going to do with the frame is I'm going to have it hydroplasted. That'll be happening in June, and then up to that point what I'm going to be doing is prepping some of my other smaller parts. That way when I get my frame hydroblasted, I can bring it back home, use our marine clean, and then use our metal prep, and then we'll be able to put our POR15, and we're going to paint this frame with a high strength commercial grade enamel, and I'm probably going to do it in a gray color to kind of break it up a little bit. So let's get back to working on this frame. So what I'm going to do now is just show you what we're going to be doing and the tools that we're going to be using. The main tool we're going to be using today is the wheel of death, the Dewalt wheel of death there. Basically it's just a cut-off wheel, and what I'm going to be cutting off are this, because it's hard to get in here to paint it or to clean it or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is it has two rivets here I'll cut off, and then it has some alignment pins on either side, and then basically it'll come out. When I go to reinstall this, I'll just use bolts, grade 8 bolts for those. I have one on each side. I also have something like this, hooks onto the cross member for the transmission, I believe it is, or I think maybe that's for the drive shaft. But it basically has 4 rivets in it, and I'm going to cut them out so that way I can clean underneath it. This part will be off, and when I have it hydroblasted, the parts will be easy to blast and easy to clean and easy to paint, and so on and so on. I'm also going to remove this bar. It's just 2 bolts that hold that in. I'm going to remove this angle brackets here. Basically looks like I have 8. Have 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. Cut them off so that way once again when I paint it, POR15, it'll be easier to get to. One on this side as well, and like I said, I'll use grade 8 bolts when I put this back together. I'm going to remove this. This is for a bump stop. Just has 2 rivets that hold it on. Cut them off. Be able to easier to clean it up. Have one on each side right there. Also have this. This is for the has 1 rivet in it, looks like, and that basically your aluminum brake line goes into that, and it hooks up to this rubber hose. So I'm going to cut that off, and I will reinstall it. But I have also this little thing, has 1 rivet in it. I'll cut that off so that way I can get up underneath it and paint and do all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to start working on that. Alright, so what I've done is I've actually removed the, which would be technically the passenger side, this bracket. So kind of tinkered with that a minute to see what's the best way to remove it. So like what I said, you have 2 rivets here that go all the way through, and what I basically did is just have to grind them off on each side. And then on each side of this are 2 little bitty pins. I know you probably can't see that, but you need to keep these, because these are just basically alignment pins for you to push in this bracket, so that way when you go to put your bolts back here, you can put these 2 alignment pins in, and it'll make sure that the bolt will be able to pass through this axle pivot bushing that goes in here. So make sure you keep these little alignment pins. They're fairly easy to take out. I basically have a little punch. I just take my punch, stick it through the hole, tap on the alignment pin, kind of want to be gentle as you're pushing them out, so that way you don't lose them. They just pop right out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm going to take my grinding wheel, grind off both sides of this rivet, and then I'll be able to remove this bracket from this cross member, and then whatever this technical thingy is right here. But by removing it, it'll allow me to get up underneath the underside and paint it and do all that good stuff. So I'm going to get it at this. Okay, so I've removed the front brackets from the cross member up front. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these 4 rivets here and remove this bracket here off of this cross member. Like I said, it has 4 rivets. What I'm going to try to do is cut them off at the top and then break it loose, so that way I don't have to cut off both sides of the rivet here. So I'm going to get started on that. Alright, since the last clip that you just seen, it's been about a week, and what I was in the process of doing is I was removing some of the brackets and some of the other little things that need to come off the frame before I can have it hydro blasted. And like I said just previously, it's just so that I can make sure I get all the parts, both sides of it clean, and when I POR15 it and then paint it, it'll all be freshly coated. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you what I've done and what little I have left to do. Alright, so here's the frame. And this box is what I'm throwing my parts in that I need to go have hydro blasted with the frame. So as I'm taking some of these off, I'm throwing them in that box. So I still have to take this off, cut that off. This bracket here I need to remove, in which that side I have already removed it. And then I have this bump stop. That's where the bump stop goes. That on this side. And on this side I have one, and then I have this little bracket that your brake lines connect to through. So basically the tools that I'm using is a Dewalt grinder over there. I am using a air chisel, and I'm using a cutting wheel, metal cutting wheel. There's a heavier duty one. I have a brand new one of these on my grinder now, and then this is basically like 60 grit or 80 grit sandpaper wheel, whatever you want to call that. If you know, comment below. So I'm going to get started on this so I can get this wrapped up. This is all I have left to get off this frame, and let's get started. Alrighty, so I've got all this parts cut out, and I have them right here. I do have some where the rivets are still in the brackets. Here's some over here too. And what I'll do is I'll use the grinder to cut these rivets off, even with this part of the bracket, and then I'll take my hammer chisel there and then knock it the rest of the way out, so it's just an open hole like that. And then I have one here I have to do, so I'm gonna do that off camera, but that way I'm not boring you with it. And another thing, what I'm gonna do when I put this back together is I'm just gonna use some grade 8 bolts and rebolt all this together. So all right, well, thanks for watching the video, and I hope you subscribe to the channel and go down there right now and smash that like button. And right beside it, there's a little notifications bell. It looks like a little bell. Hit that too, so as soon as we have a video come out, you'll get notified. Also, comment. Commenting is really big. If you need to do it, if you hit the like button, just take that extra time to make a comment about your project or this project or anything that's on your mind. So I'm gonna get out of here and finishing up these brackets, and got another video coming shortly, so have a blessed day.